Good morning, Pioneer Valley Church. There you go. All right. All right. Well, it's great to be with you guys this morning and to be speaking in this series called Love One Another, where we are focusing on emotionally healthy spirituality. And I'm just grateful to be here. I was at a marriage retreat a few weeks ago, and it was a very similar topic. And so I've been really thinking about this stuff, going through the book, and really learning, pulling out some great tools. So I'm excited to share with you guys this morning some biblical understanding, and then also I'm a mental health counselor, so there's that part of it. But I'm going to talk about that part of it because just because I'm a mental health counselor doesn't exempt me from any of the application and the difficulty, the level of difficulty of the application. So having an emotionally healthy spiritual life. And last week, Elias talked about what's in will come out. And that just sounds, I don't know, that sounds all there's all kinds of things you could feel about that. What's in comes out. But I think for the most part, what's in coming out, for a lot of us, well, that probably brings up a desire to maybe protect what's in, and maybe not let what's in come out, because I think maybe you've learned, maybe like I have learned throughout life, sometimes everything that's in doesn't need to come out, or at certain times, what's in doesn't need to come out, and trying to figure out when is that? When is it what's inside needs to come out? Because like he said, it's going to come out. At some point it's going to come out, and we know even because Jesus says, God says, at some point everything is going to be uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of him to whom we must give account. So at some point it is all going to come out. But dealing with that can be a challenge for us, especially when we think about one another and loving one another, because that's our relationships with each other. That is, there's a lot of ways where the message that comes out of my mouth can be heard and felt, and the meaning be misinterpreted or rightly interpreted or whatever. There's a lot of places where it can go wrong in one another relationships. And because of that, it's really important that we talk about it, because I've been here in this church for 27 years. I can't even believe, I almost have to fact check myself even as I say that, because that doesn't even sound right, because how can I have been here 27 years? I'm not that old, am I? I mean, I was just, I ran into a brother, and he said, "Good morning, young man," and that felt really good, so thank you, Bobby. But in 27 years, there's a lot that will come in and out of me, and I will take in from others. And so there's a lot of opportunity for there to be challenges, for there to be hurt, for there to be things that have maybe come out of someone and stuck on me and stayed with me. And I can't get it off of me. It came out of you, it's on me now, and I can't get it off of me. And sometimes what we need in these situations is we need to be able to work it out. We need something that we're going to be talking about today, reconciliation. So, jumping right into the passage, Matthew 18, verse 15 through 17. says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter can be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, you treat them as a pagan or a tax collector. So this is a really, this is a very specific teaching that Jesus is giving to us about how we manage this kind of thing, how we work out when someone sins against me. It's very specific, very clear, very clear. And I love what happens next in this passage, because Jesus, he lays this out, and it is ever so clear. It is ever so like, oh, wow, this is the steps. There's like I don't even know how many times you see, a 3-point, 4-point plan like this communicated from Jesus. And he does that. But then in verse 21, Peter says, then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times? Peter, he's asking this question. And really, the question he's asked is what's been dubbed the title of this lesson today. Seriously, how many times though? He's asking, he's like, Lord, I'm kind of one of these concrete kind of people. I need to know more. This is a very plan is laid out. But just so I know, and just so we're all clear, and maybe others will benefit from me asking, but how many times, though, do I have to forgive him? How many times? And it's interesting because he's asking this, and it's sort of the assumption that, of course, they're going to be sinning against me. Because he's, well, if he sins against me, it's not like, well, what if I sin against somebody else? How many times are they supposed to forgive me, Lord? It's just kind of like, no, but me though, right? That's how we can be. When we hear this, we kind of think about, well, yeah, but when they sin against me, not like, what do I need when I sin against a lot of people, or I sin a lot often against people, but what about me? He's saying what everybody's thinking. He's one of those kind of guys that says what everybody's thinking, and you appreciate that about Peter. For sure. Because we do wonder, like, okay, but how, when this happens though, to me. But one of the things that really jumped out to me, because Peter, sometimes he's right on the surface, he says the obvious, but then, I think sometimes Peter, God speaks through him. And I don't even know if he realizes what he's getting at. Like when he says, oh, no, you're the Son of God. And Jesus is like, yes, you are right. I think here he's also getting to something else. Because when you look at that pointed plan, I don't know how you would even be wondering, well, what about this? Because it was so laid out. But I think what Peter is getting to is the fact that, okay, yeah, maybe... if they listen to me, I'll bring somebody. If they don't listen, bring somebody else. And if they don't listen to anybody, then, okay, they have to go. But what if they do listen? What if they listen and then they apologize? How many times do I have to forgive them? Like, where's the limit for that, Lord? I know the limit for when they don't listen. It's like, okay, well, then they're gone. They're not going to listen. Then they're gone. I don't have to deal with them anymore. But what happens when they do listen? And then I have to forgive them. How many times is that before they're gone? How many times has that happened before it's like, okay, no, you've sinned too much against me. I don't have to forgive you anymore. You need to go and be with the pagans and the tax collectors. Because that's what he's asking. And that's the real question for us all. That's the real question. How am I going to stay in relationship with someone even though they sin against me? Because the thing is, and maybe Peter's thinking, like, I know these guys here. I'm just getting to know them, but I know them pretty good. I think they're good-hearted. Like, if you point something out to them, they're probably going to say, "Oh, my bad." And that's kind of how we are. I think we kind of assume and know, all right, if we bring something to somebody, they're gonna see it. But then, how do I keep? But what if? But really, the problem is, though. The problem is for me. Okay, but I've been hurt before. Yep. Like, that's what's inside of me. When we talked about the 90-10 rule, I was talking to Elias earlier this week about that, and I was like, Elias, I just want to get some clarity on this 90-10 thing, because 90% of what happens in the what is it? And it was a good conversation. I like talking to Elias. We kind of like geek out and over the scriptures and stuff. But the thing that kind of was I was dealing with was that, okay, is it 90% of what happens in the conversation that is connected to my history or my past? Because that doesn't, how is that the case? But really what I think it is 90% of what's going on inside of me. 90% of what I'm feeling as we're in this interaction. Sometimes we can get caught up on the details of the interaction, and you said this, and I don't think you heard me with this, and it's all about those little details. But really, I'm pointing out these little details because inside I'm feeling things. Right. I'm feeling maybe angry, or I'm feeling frustrated, or emotions. I'm feeling neglected, or I'm feeling overlooked, or I'm feeling like disrespected. There's all kinds of things that are happening, and that goes beyond the exchange right here. That stuff that I'm dealing with, that is connected to a lot of other things that have come before this conversation. And those are the things that we have to deal with if we're trying to be healthy emotionally. We have to be able to even just acknowledge that. Acknowledge that, yes, there are things that I have experienced. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. Oh, yeah, this is a famous quote. Okay, I've been hurt before. Who said that? Everyone. Everyone feels that and says that at some point in their lives, right? Because I've been hurt before, which means I need to protect myself. I'm feeling like I need to protect myself. What am I doing exactly? I'm dealing with my need to protect myself. No, I need to say that louder, right? I'm dealing with my need to protect myself. You are dealing with your need to protect yourself. All that stuff that you're feeling inside, when you're feeling unresolved and having a hard time working through things with someone, it's connected to that need that you have to protect yourself because you have been hurt before. And because I've been hurt before, I want to ensure that what? Never happens again. Never happens again. It's never going to happen again. And that's a real challenge when you come to a place like this. I mean, I'm all about realistic expectations. If I have an expectation that I'm never going to get hurt here, I've been hurt and I'm going to protect myself, it's never going to happen again. I'm going to have to go back on that one a number of times because it's going to happen. Yep. It's going to happen, especially when there's a diversity of people, there's a diversity of thought, there's a diversity of experiences, there's all kinds of cross intersections of differential opinions, feelings. All of that. So it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. So what am I going to do with that? Because that is there. My need to protect myself is there. 90% of what's going on inside of me in a situation, when I'm thinking about like maybe there's a conflict or just a miscommunication, yeah, it's going to be connected and explained by my past. Your past. Our history of experiences. Our ego. This is something that really I got pulled from the retreat that we went to, because David Bruce, he and his wife were like the keynotes of this retreat, and he talked about the ego and how actually that is the word that should be best used when you're trying to translate the flesh. In this passage in Romans. Because when we think of the flesh, we think of like, the physical or like, the sensual or just your passions, your lusts, the flesh, like, just thinking with your gut or whatever. But the word is actually your ego, which is like your sense of self. Your sense of self. It is our sense of self that often gets offended. It's our sense of self, like, it's almost like our ego is there, and it's like an eyeball outside of us, and it's like, wow, they just said that to you. Did other people hear that? What are they thinking about you? Wow. Do you know how you look right now? Like that's what all that stuff happens inside of us. All that's happening. And so yes, that's why we're getting like, no, how do I look? Wait a minute. What? Why are you talking to me like that? And this doesn't feel right. And I'm offended. Like, yeah, that's your ego. Your ego is looking around and like, I don't even see any. Nobody got your back here in this one either. You're all alone, buddy. What are you gonna do, man? That's our ego. That's what's going on inside of us. That's what's going on inside of us. And when we're having conflict, that's what's happening. But it takes insight. It takes awareness to say, oh, that's him. He's talking. He wants to make sure I look good at all times, and because he's egocentric. It's all about him. Right. So he's just thinking about how are you looking right now, because it's all about you. Right. But when conflict happens, it's not all about us. Correct. Sometimes it's about the other, because they got their ego going on them too. Yep. Right? So why are we talking about this? Well, I got to acknowledge, okay, that's what's happening inside of me, and that's going to cloud my ability to work through this right now, because I'm really looking at me right now, and I'm not hearing or seeing. So what am I going to do exactly? Well, what am I going to do exactly? Because I need to find security in God's plan for my life, as evidenced by his word and his spirit. I need to find security in something other than, I need to find security in something other than me and how I'm coming across or how I look right now. Some of the things I think about with this, because that passage in Matthew, it can be a little deceiving, I think, for an egocentric person. in chapter 18 where, it's like, well, just you bring the sin to somebody. If someone sins against you, bring the sin to them and call them on it. I never found it working like really that easily. Like really that clearly, I'll tell you what happens for me a lot of times. I get something and it feels like somebody's sinning against me. Without fail, though, this happens with me and Janae. I don't say anything, but then I do something, and then she brings it to me. She brings something up to me, and then it's like I can't even hear it. I can't hear it because, but, I should have said this the other day. I should have said it the other day. I should have said it because now you're bringing this, because it's so hard when somebody calls you on something and then you say, yeah, but okay, but when you did this though, it's never that easy. It's never that easy. Man, I don't know. Peter got some insight from somewhere because it's never really that easy when you just, it's just so clear that you sinned against me. And so I'm bringing it up to you because it's so clear that you sinned against me. So clear that, man, if you can't see it, I got to get somebody else. And if you can't see it, then you'll get even more. We'll get a crowd. And if you can't see it, then bye-bye. But it never works that easy, though. I mean, even when you try it, you try to get with somebody, and they're like, okay, but I think there's more than just, right? I think there's just more than just you. It might be them, it's you too, right? So, this is to help equip us with dealing with us. Because oftentimes in a room full of people, in a church full of human beings who sin, it's going to be a lot of shared. It's going to be a shared responsibility. They had everything in common with each other and shared with one another. Well, yeah, we're going to share responsibility for sin too because we all have it. It's all there. So I think we can agree, like this happens for us. This is what we can be doing when we're in conflict. So how can I approach it? How can I approach it? See that? Okay. Yeah. How can I approach it? I need to turn down the volume of my inner insecurity so I can hear my brother or sister. I need to make that big old thing a lot smaller. I need to protect myself. I need to shrink that and make that smaller and turn down the volume of my inner insecurity so that I can actually hear my brother or sister. Now, how do I do that? Well, I think one of the things that Jesus says even in this passage here, because when Peter asks him, how many times, Lord, do I have to forgive him? Jesus, he tells a parable. And the parable is about the unmerciful servant. He reminds us all that the forgiveness that you're asking about, wondering how much you should give, well, how much do you want? And not how much do you want from other people, how much do you want from the master? The master who doesn't sin against you. The master who you've only sinned against. The master who you are only in debt to. He's never sinned against you, but you have sinned against him. How much mercy do you want from him? Because that's how much mercy you should give. So it really is about, part of this is about getting my security from my salvation. Not from my performance. Not from how I look, how I sound, how many times I say the right thing and how little times I say the wrong thing. The scorekeeping, this is what I'm talking about, you know, because we keep score. You keep score. Come on. You keep score in every relationship. I've been right this many times, and I've been wronged this many times.
Right. Sure.
Maybe it's just me. It's what I got to fight. I have a scoreboard. You know, I'm a coach. So I know you got to watch the score. You got to watch the score because you don't want, you got to watch it, right? So, but we keep score. But God is telling us, what are you keeping score for? You need forgiveness. So this is not about your performance. This is not about, in the church, this is not about how many times you've done this, or you do this, or you serve in this kind of way. It's not about that. You're here because I rescued you. And don't forget that. You have mercy to be here. Don't forget that. Honestly, God is telling us, from that mercy you have, you should. I want it to just come from you, because when you get a break, you want to give a break. When you feel like you've been given a break, you want to give a break. So some of it is us. How much in touch are we actually with His forgiveness, or with his love, or with His grace? How much in touch are we with our own sinfulness, and how much it cost Jesus to give His life for us? So that's part of how we want to turn down the volume. I love the passage in Hebrews chapter 5, where it talks about Jesus and how and what, and I'm just going to read it. In Hebrews 5:7, it says, during the days of Jesus' life on earth, He offered up prayers and petitions with loud cries and tears to the one who could save Him from death. And He was heard because of His reverent submission. Jesus was heard because of His reverent submission. He was submissive to the plan that God had for Him, to die for guilty people. I mean, you want to talk about screaming, that's not fair? That's not fair, though? That's not fair. Well, how did Jesus deal with that? Because He felt everything we felt. That's why He came on earth. He came here so that He could experience everything. That's what it says. So He can experience everything we experience. And when He experienced, this isn't fair. This is not fair. Loud cries and tears to God. Why did you put me in this situation? Why does it have to be this way? Why do I have to die when I've done everything right?
Come on.
But He got submissive to the plan. And it's not any different for us. We have to be submissive to God, to His plan. You had to die for me because I'm sinful. So why am I having a hard time with forgiveness? But it's not easy to submit to that. It wasn't easy for Jesus. Loud cries and tears is what it took for Him. So that's the spiritual mindset, okay? Now I also want to give you some practicals on how practical, that is a practical. Go and pray, loud cries and tears. I mean, that's pretty practical. But I also want to give you a practical about how to listen. So we're going to do a little exercise here, because we really do want to turn down the volume of our inner insecurity. And so I have a practical way that works, that I've been trained in therapy, to really listen to somebody. Now I have to tell you, this is a disclaimer. This is professionally what I do, but I'm talking to people that I have no personal connection to. So whatever they say, it's like, it's not me. clearly this is not me in this situation. It's not really me. It's about them in their life. So I can listen, I can hear and help them to feel heard and everything because it's not me. My ego is not in the way. I mean, maybe if they say, well, you're a terrible therapist, maybe my ego might jump up and my listening might be impaired, right? Because it's like, wow, they looking at you like that? Are they going to talk to other people? Wait a minute. But I'm just saying, it's not, professionally is what I do, but personally it's very different. It's very different because of the implications on me. But I'm going to ask my my wife. To come up. I think it's that might. So we're gonna practice.
No pressure here.
Yeah, no pressure. I put all the pressure on her. I put all the pressure. I just asked her. You know, I don't know, not long ago. But we're gonna model a form of listening, a technique that you can use to really turn down the volume of your inner insecurity so you can hear what someone is saying. Because that's what we want to do. We want to be able to hear, and oftentimes it becomes a problem. We have challenges because we're not really hearing what the person is saying. We're hearing him. We're not hearing her. So what you're going to be focused on, I guess, is my responses. And that's what you're going to want to do when you're in this situation.
Hey, babe.
Hey.
So is now a good time to talk? Is now a good time to talk?
It's a perfect time.
Well, I just want you to know I love you and I appreciate that you want to always stay connected and I want to stay connected to you. So I wanted to make an appointment to see if we could talk about something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So last night, when you asked me about watching The Mandalorian with you, and if I would join you in watching the show The Mandalorian, I had a little interaction that I wanted to see if I could discuss with you.
Okay. So you want to talk right now about how last night I asked you to watch The Mandalorian with me, and then you had an experience there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we started watching, about a quarter of the way through it, you started to fall asleep.
So a quarter of the way through watching The Mandalorian, you noticed that I was falling asleep.
Yep. And I nudged you a couple times, and you tried to wake up, but then you fell asleep again.
Yeah. So you tried to help me out with it. You nudged me to wake me up, but then I fell back asleep.
And so then I offered you, would you like to watch it another time? Because you wanted to see it, but you're really not able to watch it right now, which is fine. We could watch it another time.
So you tried to give me an option of like, you know, we can watch this another time. We don't need to watch this now because you're tired. You're sleeping.
Right. But then you seemed to get upset about that, and you denied that you were sleeping.
So when you were just trying to help me out, and give us another time to watch it, I acted like I wasn't falling asleep.
Yes. And actually, you seemed like you were upset at me that I was wrong, that you were not sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you felt me being frustrated with you for implying that I was sleeping.
Yes. Yes. And so I felt a little trapped in the situation because I was like, do I keep watching? Do I say something? Or do I not? And maybe a little discounted that like what I was seeing wasn't real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You felt trapped, like you had to be there because I was saying I'm awake, even though you're seeing me fall asleep. And it also caused you to feel like I wasn't listening to you, I wasn't really hearing your concern about me falling asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just didn't love the way it felt. I ended up watching the show by myself, and then, we went to bed, and it was fine. But I think I just wanted to bring it up to you because it didn't feel great, and it made me feel disconnected.
Gotcha. So you persevered through it and watched it on your own, but it was disappointing. It was disappointing to have to watch the show that I made you watch, and I was falling asleep.
Yeah. Actually, I enjoyed the show. It was fine. I think I felt disappointed by our interaction. It wasn't even about the show, because I
Right.
could have gone either way. I didn't have to watch it.
Right.
I could have watched it. It was more I was disappointed by our interaction
Right.
and how I felt in that.
Yeah. So you were actually disappointed because I was acting like I wasn't asleep, even though I was everything but snoring.
And you might have snored.
And I might have snored.
Right. Yes.
So I was, yeah, okay. So if I can understand all of this clearly, last night you felt disappointed because I asked you, pulled you in to do something, and you did it, and you were fine with watching it, but when you raised some concern to me, I didn't listen to you. And I actually made you feel like you were crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was crazy.
I'm not going to judge that, but I just, yeah.
I was
felt
falling
crazy.
asleep and saying I wasn't.
Yes.
I was waking up and saying I'm not sleeping.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, so how would you like me to deal with this?
I think maybe next time, just maybe pausing and considering what I was saying might be one option, like considering what I was saying to you, because it felt like you had a strong response before knowing what I was saying. Like I think it felt like you thought maybe I had a feeling about you sleeping, and if you could have slowed down just to understand what I was saying, that would be good.
Yeah. So do a better job of hearing what you're saying.
Yes.
Quiet.
It's the ego, right?
Doing a better job
Yeah.
of just hearing what you're saying as opposed to reacting
Yes.
in the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
I
would
will.
be helpful.
I will work on that, honey.
All right, thank you.
I love
I
you.
love you.
All right. So this is, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate Janae bringing one, that wasn't so hard for us to do. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad you said that, actually, because I didn't know that you felt that way. So thank you for doing that. So that's what we want to do. That's just an example of, now you see what I was doing? I was just hearing what she was saying and reflecting it back to her just to make sure that I heard it. And I wasn't explaining anything. I wasn't explaining why I did this or what I was thinking or what was actually happening from this point of view. I was just listening to her and trying to really hear what she was experiencing. And it was pretty clear to me. So that's an example of what we want to try to do. Listen, repeat back, and then at the end, I asked, well, so I tried to summarize what was the scope of what she said, and then, so what would you like me to do with this in this situation? Or how can I handle this situation? Just a tool for us to use. That's the how. So as I wrap up here right now, but the why. Well, why should I do this? Well, I've already kind of talked about some of this, some of the why. In Matthew 18, 22 through 35, Jesus he gives Peter an explanation, and it's the unmerciful servant. The mercy that you want, that you need from God, well, yeah, that you need to be able to give that to other people. as well. Colossians 3:13, forgive as the Lord forgave you. That is really, that's a big why. But I want to give us another image as we close out here, an image of the why, because this kind of came to me, actually the day that Elias and I spoke, and it was just from my quiet time that morning, and it really stood out to me. And I was like, wow, I think this is something here. And so I just wanted to share it because it's such a clear picture. It's in Hebrews chapter 3. And it says in verse 16, who were they who heard and rebelled? Were they not all those Moses led out of Egypt? And with whom he was angry for 40 years? Was it not those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the desert? And when I read that, I was like, wow, he was angry with them for 40 years? What would that be like to be angry with someone for 40 years? To be holding that kind of emotion about someone for 40 years. That sounds awful. What would it produce? Well, I can tell you what it's produced in me when I haven't been here 40 years, but I've been here 27. And I think probably for a good 20, there was someone that I really just struggled to like, that I had a lot of anger with. And I can tell you, it did not feel good. Some of the things that it would make me think is like, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I need to go. Maybe he needs to go. No, maybe I need to go. Maybe this whole thing needs to go. Nobody knows how to deal with anything around here. It just was not. It was not good. And this is saying this here. It says it here about Moses. This is what Moses went through. But Moses went through this, so hopefully we don't have to go through this. Because we see what it did for him. We see what happened for him. I don't know how much peace Moses had, but I know he didn't enter into the rest. He didn't enter into the promised land. Right. And that's what he's talking about. It goes on, it says, and to whom did God swear that they would never enter his rest, if not to those who disobeyed? So we see that they were not able to enter because of their unbelief. Therefore, since the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us be careful that none of you be found to have fallen short of it. For we also have had the gospel preached to us, just as they did, but the message they heard was of no value to them because those who heard it did not combine it with faith. There's a parallel about entering into rest. Moses didn't enter the promised land. He was angry with the Israelites for 40 years, right even till the end, striking the rock. He was angry the whole time. And that's a warning to us. We got to deal with what's going on inside of us so we can deal with what's going on inside of the room so that we can have peace, so that we can have true rest here and after. Because our Lord, Moses was angry with the people, but our Lord, he was hurt by everyone. And he stood there and he hung there and said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. You see the difference? That's your Lord. That's who you should be inspired by and follow. Because Moses was angry for 40 years and Jesus looked at them and said, God, forgive them. They don't even know what they're doing to me right now. They don't even know why I'm here. But that's our Lord. That's who we follow. That's who we look to. That's why we reconcile. That's why we deal with inside. He helps us to deal with that because the security that we have that he loved us more than we deserve to be loved.